That's nice. That's terrible. It uses the old skin format and it breaks everything. That's nice. I should probably make an intro to my stream. So, hello everyone, welcome to another Garsto Dozer stream and stuff. I might as well become ninja at this point. I'm streaming nearly every day, all day, every day. Yep, this is exactly. Let's see if. Yep, my prediction is correct. I look grumpy. No, I'm just even more tired than I was earlier. If I was grumpy, I'd probably just be like. Yeah, I'm not good at being mad. When I am though, you'd probably be able to tell. I've gotten mad in like one unlisted video, and yeah. Oh my goodness. Are you going to ask me for mod again? Hmm? Yeah. How did you find this channel at? Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I don't think he's one of the OG 2017 subscribers, so yeah, that's the thing. The only OG subscriber who's at least semi-active, and by that I mean comments once in a blue moon. Shout out to Callum Quads for being longest running subscriber thingy thing. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, he's an OG. I'm not even sure if he's even subscribed to me anymore, but yeah. He was active back in the day. I'm not sure who I'm talking to exactly, but I'm talking. And I'm probably doing a pretty bad job at it. This guy. No way. Who could leave one of my brilliant streams? This is sadness. We need the guys. Well, Legend's currently doing something. I know because I'm literally chatting with him as we speak. Hence the headset. And Creeper, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna. His notifications aren't working, so. I should probably just do another announcement in the TTS Discord because that's where most people know where things are going on. There we go. If that doesn't get everyone's attention, I don't know what will. Right, hang on, I'm gonna see because there might be one person who will actually join. Right, if this works out, then that is magical. It should work out. They've just went offline, so that means they're still alive. Actually, it isn't. This person really shouldn't still be alive. They kind of messed me and the Dursey development team around. You know exactly what I'm doing now I've said that. Who? The artist, of course. I honestly just need content. Maya. Yep. Hey, is it as bad as my Austro skin? No, it's not. Right, so basically it's going well. They should be joining. I've sent them the link. And if they don't, then 1 sec. Good, we will have second viewer. Oh no, what have I done? Tell me if we get a second viewer up in here. Which I probably won't know until she types because, again, the counter's kind of not great. Do an angry face and tell her off. Sure. Gonna get ready for some proper Garsto Durza scolding right here. I'll chuck money at my. Actually, no, that will probably just turn on aeroplane mode again. That will be. That will be quite tragic. Again, I'm at the point of insanity where I might as well talk to my own shadow. Basically, I've gone so insane, and there's basically no one who exists who knows about my existence. So I might as well talk to my own shadow. If I can. There we go. Right. You said 1 sec, then you went off WhatsApp. Where are you? Why aren't you watching me stream? Come on, I will leak our DM conversations again if you don't watch it this second. I'll leak my DM history with you if you carry on, Legends. Yeah, we'll let the internet decide what kind of sins we'll get died for. The fact Geo Films has uploaded right when I'm doing this is kind of unfortunate. It's going to drive away most of my traffic. Hey, maybe that's where the artist is right now because they're subbed to Geo. Hmm. Hmm. Are you talking about my stream description? Hang on, I've completely forgot what I put in my scream description. This is a very. Why would he take your traffic? Because I don't. Probably because his content and my content are very similar. He does entitled parents, and so. Well, that's just. Yeah, that's the video he's uploaded today. Yeah, I don't have a good reason. Don't tell me not to do that again. Get on my stream right now, Legends. We are We are going to have a serious conversation, and if you fail, I'm going to demote you from moderator. I know what sub you would do. What sub would I do? Because of, yeah. Yes. Oh. Yes, I'd be able to fill my channel. r/ins. Oh, that's actually a very good point. Hmm. Again, Mum kind of doesn't mind me meeting people off the internet, because at one point she wanted me to make friends on Facebook, and I was like, no, no, I don't need that. I don't want that. They aren't gonna be. Just no. I don't want Facebook friends. I don't want to be involved with this stuff. So yeah, that happened. Yes, Discord. Yes, legends. Discord friends are the only true friends. Send me a screenshot, then, legends. What do you mean? Once we're in the Minecraft game, I am streaming. We are not streaming Minecraft because OBS is laggy. Mobus and Live is laggy. I'm your RKE just steals my battery. And because I'm kind of not motivated to play Minecraft, I would much rather play. I have no other games to play. I would rather. I would rather remove Pixel Gun. If I had a time machine, I could only use it once. Yeah, I'd erase Pixel Gun 3D Legends. That is literally what I'd do. You've just made a custom skin of your profile picture, haven't you? I've only just realised. Should I plug my furry amino? Yes, I should, if I can find it. Again, I haven't used it in a while. That's probably why I can't find it. Wait, do I even have it? Yeah, I do. I still have it. Good. Ah, don't call me bruv. Oh my goodness. Right, everyone follow Rexo Gamer on Furry Amino because promotions and advertisement. What are you doing, legend? Where are you? Hang on. I'm getting kind of annoyed again at this artist, yeah? Make sure to spend me. Maya, I sent her the link. Heh, 1 sec. Are you even watching? I'm kinda busy right now, sorry. Heh. Honestly, more unreliable than my upload schedule. And that's pretty horrific. If you're worse than my channel's upload schedule, which is like once every 3 months and then another one, and then maybe twice every 6 months. Right, anyone want story time with Gash? Right, that sounded so unmotivated. I cannot even join your world, mate. This is going on. You want story time? Alright then. I shall quickly I don't know, I'll be back in a second. By the way, you've broke Minecraft, now it's just a panorama spinning. Nice job, Ledge. Yeah, you. Alright. Alright,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're happy for me to chance to get your model. Yeah, I did, but I needed it. I really needed it. He seems alright.
Uh-huh. I'm back. Alright, T, I am back. Yeah, he's gone. What just I? Oh. Sorry, I could not hear anything. Except for you there. Right. It's mystery time. Alright then. What did you... Oh no, I just had to go for a second. It was nothing to do with that. We were just making a bit... We were just talking at first. What are you saying, Ledge? No, I've barely even gotten started. I'm trying to do a story time on my stream. Right then, so... There were quite a few things I could talk about. I could talk about what school was like. I could talk about really anything. Just give me a subject, I'll find school. Alright, which school? Should we talk about the most recent one where I met Lucky and Chezzy and Charlie and such? Or should we go far back, like all of those scrambled memories from times long gone? I still can't connect to your world, mate. What update are you on? I don't mind. Alright, I'm gonna give up on Minecraft and allow my thing. Talk about Jersey development. I didn't know Rexo didn't mine away. That is a very shocking revelation. Alright then, so let's talk about school. Yeah? Alright then. Let me sit up. Don't like these big studios that are trying to actually that up. Alright, so school, yeah? I'm not gonna give any names because I can't really do that on the street. But I went to a school in another county because all the schools here were full up, yeah. Again, already a pretty bad thing. And on literally day one, I'd already made an enemy. Like, just great going there, Garsto. Make an enemy on day. Before I even got to school as well. That's the thing. This kid, yeah, he kind of hated me before I'd even gotten into the building because school buses exist and yeah, they ain't good. That's going to come into play later. So I got to school, made like a few friends. Some of them I'd already known from the taster day, which was kind of lackluster. I just sort of like built a little thing out of the mismatched Legos and that was that. Oh my goodness. Why do you do this, Legends? Who are you? It is Legends. We now have a furry doppelganger. This is correct. I can take this headset off now. Anyways, so yeah, first days at school were kind of... School is for nerds. So yeah, first while at school really was kind of uneventful. I did meet someone else who I really didn't like. They'd later become Chezzy, so yeah, me and Chezzy were actually kind of like enemies for a good while. Eventually, though, we became really close friends. Like, he was my best friend for quite a while. Chezzy 100. Oh my goodness, Legends! Alright. So yeah, eventually... So yeah, eventually... So yeah, eventually a new person joined the school. Yeah, this is skipping quite a bit because honestly I find it hard to recall events. Now this person had a YouTube channel called JSXX The Boss 2006. Now if you recognise that name, you'd know that he was the person who inspired me to make YouTube. Now, yeah, he basically showed off his channel, and I was like, hey, Gasto Test exists. It's dormant, but it exists. And he's like, yo, you should upload. And I'm like, right, I'm going to get my voice recorder out, use my video master skills. And yeah, I uploaded my first video, my introduction on Gasto Test, on like January 2017. And that's kind of when the internet got their first exposure of myself. So yeah, that was Garsto Durza wouldn't be here if it wasn't for terrible schools. So yeah, me, Lucky, Charlie, and Chezzy. Why does everyone have C as their beginning names? Yeah, but oh yeah, JSXX changed his name to Lucky quite a while later, so we'll refer to him as Lucky from now on. So yeah, we were good friends. We were a clan, I guess. Not really. Yeah. Eventually, though, yeah, from that day, Gusto uploaded, the internet was never. Very true. Very true. So, yeah, I started to grow really distant. My behaviour started to sort of decline, and I'd basically given up on school at this point now. Um, at this point, I wasn't even paying attention to the lessons because even though I'd made just a big point about how I'd already knew this stuff, they weren't listening, so around the end of it, I just wasn't even paying attention. I, Legends. How many alts do you have? You have more than me. You're ruining this sort of like jumbled up stuff. Right, I've kind of graced over a really big thing, and that was the bus, the school bus. Right, so we had this really nice bus driver, yeah. Mm. We're kind of still in contact today, but not really. Yeah, they were really nice. They were pretty lenient, and they just, they actually cared about the kids. But eventually, for absolutely no reason, I was literally kicked off. I was literally yeeted so far that I ended up in a brand new bus. And this is where the bus problems start to really begin. It was middle of summer, yeah, very hot. I can't take heat very well, so I need to stay hydrated, No, that's illegal on this bus. I'm not allowed to drink no matter what. I can't talk to anyone no matter what. So I am literally just a sweating husk who has to sit there for around 2 hours before I get to school. That was fun. That was really fun. So yeah, eventually me and Mum made a really big deal about that. We got that changed, so I was able to have a limited amount of drinks. And why are you? Why are you doing this, Legend? Why are you two? Right then. So after the old bus incident, I think I was like temporarily put back on the old bus, which was really nice for the time it was. But then I was eventually back on the old bus again. Oh yeah, we got the old bus driver sacked, and then they replaced it with one who was even worse. Again, the rules I just said, but oh no, the first one shouted at the kids, and the second one was the one who prohibited drinks and stuff and made us sit silent even more. So yeah, that was great. We're now going into winter, and despite my careful footing, I slipped down a pair of metal stairs. My back hurts even saying that. um, from the rush of trying to get school but being careful, I slipped down metal stairs, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. I didn't go school after that, I don't believe. So, yeah. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes, but to go into that, I'd have to go into like people's names and stuff, and that's really not something I want to do because Charlie, Chezzy, they both still sort of exist. They know about my channel, so if I start giving out names and events, that might cause a bit of trouble, and I'm not in the mood for that. So yeah, my last school, but it went terribly, just like all the others. Again, those are little issues compared to some of the stuff that was actually going on. There was some very, very shady. All right then, story time over. Anything else? I mean, I could talk about bad Mel stairs. Yes, that kind of caused me to have a fear of stairs for a while. Again, and I'd injured my. Oh, there's a party or something going on. Oh, yeah, I think that's Mum's phone ringing. What's that mean? Yeah. So yeah, another story about a completely separate school. I was forced, literally forced. I couldn't get out of this to go on a camping trip. Again, this is predate. This was a long time ago. Before I even. This is a long time ago. So I was forced onto this camping trip. Yeah. First night was terrible. I learnt what sleep deprivation was that night. I wanted to sleep, but every time I was really tired when my eyes were open, but whenever I closed them, they just burnt. That was part one of everything that just went wrong. Um, and then on the actual day of the trip, I nearly drowned. Again, I couldn't breathe. I was screaming for help, and everyone just stood there. There was only one person who even bothered to help me, and I still look up to them to this day. And then later on, I believe this is later on anyway, because I wouldn't have been able to swim if I had done this before. My back collapsed on a hill. I'm pretty sure they didn't help me because the teacher was stressed or something like that. That was literally the reason they gave. Teacher was stressed, they can't help out, and I was left there crawling up the hill for like 5 to 10 minutes before they just walked off. Like I was literally fearful of my life, fearful that I'd just die on that hill. Like things like that, you shouldn't really be experiencing at that age. So I literally, once I finally got to the top of that hill and was able to finally stand despite all the pain, the amount of fear and anxiety that caused. So yeah, you can kind of see why I don't like schools. You can also kind of see why I suffer from anxiety. Legends. Oh, school sucks indeed. Anything else? I can literally talk about anything. Again, just pick a subject. This is your guys' stream, not mine. I'm just a person hosting it. Yeah, I have more, but I'll stop. Let's get some positivity. Oh, that's going to be hard. I have like 20 emails. I wish there was a way to IP ban someone on streams. Please no tragic backstories. This is the part where I tell you about. This is the part where I tell you about the really, really depressing stuff. But talk about Jersey development. It's going well. I'm not going to be able to release it tonight because I've been too busy streaming and stuff. But yes, I am making sure to release that in a few days, so don't worry about that. It's just a tad bit delayed. So yeah, I haven't been able to do any development today. What things would you guys like to hear? Funny story. Yes? Or if you're telling me to tell a funny story, then... Hmm. A funny story. Oh, alright then. I'll read Rexo's story. Funny story. I went to various toddler groups. One of them had a music time. Me being me, I picked up the maracas. Oh goodness, did I just fail to say maracas? And started hitting the other toddlers with them. That seems like something I'd do. Oh dear. No. I'm sorry for laughing, that's... I also had a similar thing in my local library. Go on, I'm really infested. This sounds... I picked up a wooden shelf. Oh god, an entire shelf? What are you doing? And waved it around. I mean, I wasn't exactly the brightest spark either. We'll go into that. The parents were scared. I mean, if you count whacking people with chairs in bloody school as anything similar to that, that happened when I was younger. I do mean younger. I mean, oh, hang on. We might get some. Yeah. False alarm. So yeah, if you mess with like 6-year-old me, you're gonna get hit with a chair, mate. Alright, I'll read this one as well. Legends FM, because he has way too many alts, said, I remember once I spent 10 minutes slowly pushing a wardrobe to the top of the stairs at my old school. over the top and right down the stairs because one of the teachers told me off. It was full of books and shit. Again, uh, we've had a very adventurous youth. Somehow I got caught. I don't know how I was silent. I wish there was a way to link up multiple streams. This would be very good quality. All of us just talking about. You hear that, YouTube? Take my ideas. We need co-streams. If that's not a thing already, again, I'm not too good at YouTube. Alright, ignore that. I'm great at YouTube. Ignore that. Ignore that. Ooh. I've never really. Wait. Right, I'm slightly taken aback by that. I'm not sure how to react to that. Oh dear. I'll add them right now if we get yes, if we get a yes, and if we get a no, I'll be. I don't know. I guess I won't add them right now. All right, that's one yes. Yep. All right. All right. We'll add a new category. Again, if only it was that easy to get everyone agree to everything you've done. Like, hey, do you want to rob the local bank? Yep. Yep. Yeah. Heck yeah. Hmm. The funny thing is, I actually considered stupid stuff like that when I was younger. Like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to sort of like sneak 100 away and go rob the local bank? I don't think I would have got very far. Being a criminal sounds fun. Sounds fun! I'll be honest, it actually kind of does. Don't take that out of context. Because we are gangsters, we will bring you we will ruin you or something. There we go, the Storytime channels exist now. I just pinged both of yous. My goodness, cool. It's quite chilly in here actually, I do say so myself. What's going on? Can hear a bunch of children. That's all I can hear out me window, yeah. Just hear a bunch of children screaming. Well, children and young teens. I remember a funny story. Go on then. Hmm. I'm enjoying this streaming thing. Would you guys like to see a daily stream? When possible. One time there was a football competition between my class and another. Right, that's football. You instantly know something's going to go wrong because uh, that's a yeah. Football hit me in the eye, and also that. Alright, this is creeper story time. Oh no, as Legends joined on another alt. What's a bunch of lads across the street? What the hell? What are they doing? They're running around with Nerf guns and scooters and crap. Your class pulled a sneak 100. Very well done there. Plans. There's a bloody can right. Playing in the middle of the road. What are they doing? Water Nerf guns running around, being loud. Right, is it 9 o'clock? Yeah, it's 9 o'clock at night, almost 10. They're running around with bloody Nerf guns and screaming and scooters and. Oh. In the middle of the road as well. Why? What? Don't gardens exist in this area? Honest. Honestly, if my windows opened up, I'd be promoting my game to them right now. I was telling a funny story, but I forgot what it was now. I don't know, if I scroll up a bit, maybe I'll remember. Honestly, I should really consider purchasing that fursuit now, so then I can look out the window and spook all of these younglings. Wait, why is there an Xbox invite? Is it Legends or Chessy? Oh no, it's just. And that's how the lesson ended without being in class. You pulled a very good sneak 100 right there. Who invited you? Oh no, the Xbox party. No, it was just a Xbox notification. Gosh, who sent an? Yeah, it was. It wasn't a invite. Because usually when I see a thing on the screen, it's usually an invite. But no, it's just saying how Legends left the party like an absolute blandus. Soon enough, they'll be like me. They'll have no energy and feel like they're about to die at 14 years old. Yeah. So, would you guys like to see semi-daily streams? I mean, that sounds like fun. Oh, I remembered the story now. Maybe. Maybe not every day. Maybe every 2 days, with sometimes I'll do a few in a row. Yeah, that sounds better because I. Alright, then we'll do streams every 2 days and sometimes we'll do a few days in a row. That sounds like a good plan. Right, so me funny story, yeah, is I don't like football. I'm not a fan of the sport. I'm not a fan of, well, football. What do you expect? American football's even worse, but I just insulted America. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for insulting American football. So yeah, this kid called Hayden who actually appeared in Cringerful, but it was a very you wouldn't have noticed unless I pointed out exactly what was going on. So no context, Hayden. Um, yeah, let's just say he kicked a football, hit me right in the quad. That was a painful afternoon. Oof, indeed. And now I'm going to stroke my fossil because it's a very cute fossil. Look at it. Oof. Yeah, again, I'm just not interested in football, so having a bunch of football related injuries makes it even worse. Petting fossil. This is a high quality stream right here. Each of my streams is longer than the last, so tomorrow I'm going to have to do like a 4-hour stream, and that's. Oh no. If this continues, I'm going to be doing like 24-hour streams, and that's. Fossil petting. Yes, it is a very cute fossil. It has eyes, it has. Yeah, it's a very cute fossil. You can't judge me for this. Oh, my crystal angel has fallen. I'm not judging. Rose quartz angel. It has a habit of falling over. I just always manage to knock it somehow. I still have that drink from the ASMR thing I did in one of the last streams. I'm probably not gonna touch that now. But yeah, it's still there. That's not a good sign. I also have a mini version. It's a completely different species, but yeah, there's a little mini one here. It's really cute, it is. Honestly, fossils are amazing. They show us that. I don't know. They're just amazing. A lot of them are beautiful. Some of them have like crystals forming in them and stuff, and I find that really beautiful. I find most of things nature does really beautiful. Oh, I'm going a bit off track. Yeah, fossil petting. I'm taking notes. Boom. Oh, by the way, we came up with a really good. Oh, 1 hour, sweet. Me and Chezzy came up with a really good villain, except not really. Evil Garsto is now officially canon. He appears in like Maz 2, and that's about his only appearance. Forgot this. I'm gonna look for something that can explain to me how much I hate Legends right now. I can't find anything. I hate you, Legends. You made a decision about my game. Hey, you made the decision yourself. You literally said I got mind controlled. I've just given the character a name. I don't know. Strength 100. And right then. There we go, finally a silent clap. Quality is trash. It wouldn't be a Gosto Durza video if it wasn't low quality now, would it? Something else that happened at school was this. It's backwards. It says Josh is best. So big shout out to Dan the Man UK for doing such a nice thing, except we're kind of not friends anymore. So I guess anti shout out to Dan the Man UK for taking jokes to. You missed me whacking my laptop with a pillow because of how much I hate you, Legends, and your stupid ults. You've missed me making a fool of myself. And honestly, why can't I just say whatever I want on stream? It would make this so much less awkward. I could talk for hours. Oh my life, do you have like 9 likes? How do you... Wait, I have a line... You've been liking my stream with literally every one of your ults. Screw off. Destroy my laptop. Stream's over, guys! I am not going to destroy my laptop. If you want me to destroy a laptop, you should have asked me to record before I even knew any of you, because we smashed a laptop with a hammer because it was broken. Very interesting. So we'll just put the... Did you... I just only realised that was an OWO. And I should be reacting to the fact it is an OWO. Use the camera to record the laptop. Do the loudest Uwu I can. Oh god, I'm going to regret this. I can't do it, I'm so sorry. I can't, I have neighbours, we have outdoors, and we have my mum. Again, if I could eliminate all of these factors, I'd probably scream Uwu. I'll do a loud Uwu, but not too loud, yeah? Uwu! You have an ear piercing, yes. Funny story about. It's on the left ear, yeah. Huh? Am I not allowed to be left-handed for convenience? Am I not allowed to have a left ear piercing for convenience because I'm left-handed? Huh? I have basically no control over my right hand. Or a lot more limited control in my right hand. Alright, so fun fact, I got my ear piercing done 2 years back. Forgot to put the earring in, it closed up. I got it done a good few months ago. Mum lost the earring, it closed up. So this is my third attempt at keeping my ears pierced now. And this is probably the final attempt as well. The white ear signal. Again, I can literally do anything. There's so many things. There's so many. Like, if I can do anything, then why can't I use copyrighted music on my YouTube channel? That's not going to get me in trouble whatsoever. I need a stream bot or something, so then I can promote people without having to do it manually. I'm not sure how I'd even manage a stream bot. Yeah, I'll figure it out somehow. Participants? Who has participated in my... Oh, it's just not going to show a list. That's nice. It's... Toggle timestamps. Can I see? Yeah, I can see when people sent messages. That's handy. So what now? I'm willing to do anything. I'll sing any song, dance any dance, meme any meme. Literally, right here, right now, I'll do the full "We Are Number One" music video in front of your eyes. It will be perfection. Ugandan knuckle. I just got a DM. I know that noise from anywhere. What is this? What was the DM? It was Legends. Do Orange justice while singing Incy Wincy Spider. Just a crawler thread about it. Alright then, so first we'll do Ugandan Knuckles. Do I have anything... I don't have anything Sonic related in real life, shockingly. Do you know the way? I will show you the way. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Right then, now let's do Orange Justice for singing Incy Wincy Bloody Spider from... Oh no. You've brought this upon yourself, kids. I need to get a good angle. This is a terrible angle. I'm probably going to destroy my laptop. How do I do an Orange Justice? Dancing all over the water spatter. You've made me rage now. Again, don't. You can do what you want. I'm like, don't tell me to do a dance I don't want to do. But I kind of said you're allowed to do anything. This is a stream about torturing. Oh my goodness. Come in. Yeah, you. Bye bye.
Alright, see ya. Yeah? Oh, wow.
Wait, is she asleep?
Yeah. Alright.
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah. Floss. No, that's too much. Into the local. Right, we have company. My niece is round, yeah, so yeah. Alright, I will attempt to floss. I've tried this before and it didn't go well. This is why I shouldn't. This is why. Alright, maybe I should just stop streaming now. No. Okay, goodbye, world. Right, you have seen me floss. I hope I didn't do a half bad job. I didn't just go mega like. I didn't just go. Oh my legs hurt from that. Again, don't do the splits while also doing a horrible floss impression. Great, now we have company. That means I have to be even more censored. Great. So look at what Maya said, yeah. I am leaking my conversation history just because. Like, you can barely see that. Basically, she says she'll watch my stream when she finishes a bloody film. Okay, lad, check Discord. Mad boy is thirsty for them online cattiers. DM it to me. Right then, I'll DM you the I actually almost let go of my tablet while doing that. That would have been really horrible because I don't have a backup of all the DRS AR. Oh yeah, I do, but it's only on my tablet. So you're about to lose DRS A forever, guys. How does that make you feel? Will it be a jump? Alright, I'm doing this in the complete wrong order. I'm Gnotiganel. I'm Gnotiganopin. I'm a gnome, and you've been wronged. I just did that. I just did that. Gno. Like, what other crazy stuff can I do? You guys want to see me do my times tables for like the next half an hour? No, you don't. That's boring. Right then, if any of you want me to read, hit me up. I have a few Ronald Dahl books, so if you'd like to hear a story, I'm completely up for it. Bedtime stories with Garsto Durza right here. Yes. Right then. I meant it when I said I had quite a few books. Gasto reads. That's kind of a good thing about having my name be like that. You can basically just add any word and then add sa on the end of it, and it works. Alright, so I'll go through all the books. So we have George's Marvellous Medicine. I'm going to do a good job reading if I can't even pronounce the books. George's Marvellous Medicine, the BFG, Matilda, Danny the Champion of the World, Revolting Rhymes, The Twits. I hate you, Exo. Easyo Twat. I pronounced that. I butchered that. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. Billy and the Minpins. And the Witches. Wait, where's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? I own that. Did my mum give that away? I'm feeling some marvellous medicine. Alright then. My personal childhood favourite. I loved this. Right then, everyone get ready for this. Get a drink and a blanket or something, because this is going to be... Right, how many chapters do I read? I'm not even sure. I'm just going to... Right, if you need inspiration, take a look at this, yeah? Draw what Rexo. Draw this, yeah? Draw this. There you go. Inspiration 100. I'm going to remove that now. I need to get a drink before I start reading. No. Alright then, I'm off to get a drink. And then I'll read to you with my perfectly... Oh. That's kind of lucky, actually. Shift all this He said Joker. Alright, I put the book there. I'll tell you what you should draw, yeah. I've only done my persona in pixel art, so if you could draw that, that would be lovely. That would be lovely. For real, oh god. Sriggity. I'm not. Why is that in my mind? You cannot come in, I'm doing things. I said you can't come in. Oi, oi. I'm going to say hello, I'm going to give you a cuddle. And then I'm going to ask you to stay on the wall. Grab the book. I'm using my wallet as a bloody bookmark. That's going to end well. Huh? Oh my goodness. What's my mum want? Yeah? Oh, alright. Let me grab the password. You just came into my room right here. Give me your tablet. No.
Yes. Oh, you just have your laptop out.
Please, no. I'm trying to do something. There you go. You're connected to the internet now.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Why is your niece randomly here? Sleepover. Right then. Chapter 1. Hang on, I haven't done my introduction yet. Hello everyone, and welcome to our late night broadcast of Garsto Reader. And now today, we will be reading George's Marvellous Medicine. Chapter 1. Let me... I'm kind of anxious to read on camera. Oh well. Chapter 1. Grandma. I'm going shopping in the village, George's mother said to George on Saturday morning. So be a good boy and don't get up to mischief. This was a silly thing to say to a small boy at any time. It immediately made him wonder what sort of mischief he might get up to. And don't forget to give Grandma her medicine at 11 o'clock, the mother said. Then out she went, closing the back door behind her. Grandma, who was dozing in her chair by the window, opened one wicked eye and said, Now you heard what your mother said, George. Don't forget my medicine. No, Grandma, George said, and just try to behave yourself for once while she's away. Yes, Grandma, George said. George was bored to tears. He didn't have a brother or a sister. His father was a farmer, and the farm they lived on was miles away from anywhere, so there were never any children to play with. He was tired of staring at hens. He was sorry about that. He was tired of staring at pigs and hens and cows and sheep. He was especially tired of having to live in the same house as that grisly old grunion of a grandma, looking after her all day by himself was hardly the most exciting thing. Hardly the most exciting way to spend a Saturday morning. You can make me a nice cup of tea for a start, Grandma said to George. That'll keep you out of mischief for 5 minutes. Yes, Grandma, George said. George couldn't help disliking Grandma. She was a selfish, grumpy old woman. She had pale brown teeth and a small, puckered up mouth like a dog's bottom. How much sugar in your tea today, Grandma? George asked her. 1 spoon, she said, and no milk. Most grandma Most grandmothers are lovely, kind, helpful old ladies, but not this one. She spent all day and every day sitting in her chair by the window, and she was always complaining, grousing, grouching, grumpily, griping about something or other. Never once, even on her best days, had she smiled at George and said, Well, how are you this morning, George? Or why don't you and I have a game of snakes and ladders? Or how was school today? She didn't seem to care about other people, only herself. She was a miserable old grouch. George went into the kitchen and made Grandma a cup of tea with a tea bag. He put 1 spoon of sugar in it and no milk. He stirred the sugar well and carried the cup into the living room. Grandma sipped the tea. It's not sweet enough, she said. Put more sugar in. George took the cup back to the kitchen and added another spoonful of sugar. He stirred it again and carried it carefully into Grandma. Where's that saucer? She said. I won't have a cup without a saucer. George fetched her a saucer. And what about a teaspoon, if you please? I've stirred it for you, Grandma. I stirred it well. I'll stir my own tea. Thank you very much, she said. Fetch me a teaspoon. George fetched her a teaspoon. How am I doing so far? Are the voices okay? Again, I'm kind of anxious reading out loud, so yeah. Ooh, how did I manage to not breathe for that long? Okay, that's good. As long as it's not dreadful, then I'm happy. It's keeping me relaxed whilst I draw. You're doing it. Thank you. When George's mother or father were home, Grandma never ordered George about like this. It was only when It was only when she had him on her own that she began treating him badly. You know what's the matter with you? The old woman said, staring at George over the rim of the teacup with those bright, wicked little eyes. You're growing too fast. Boys who grow Boys who grow too fast become stupid and lazy. But I can't help if it, but I can't help it if I'm growing fast, Grandma, George said. Of course you can, she snatched. Growing's a nasty, childish habit. But we have to grow, Grandma. If we didn't grow, we'd never be grown-ups. Rubbish, boy, rubbish, she said. Look at me. Am I growing? Certainly not. But you did once, Grandma. One, only very little, the old woman answered. I gave up growing when I was extremely small, along with all the other nasty childish habits like laziness and disobedience and greed and sloppiness and untidiness and stupidity. You haven't given up any of these things, have you? I'm still only a little boy, Grandma. You're 8 year old. You're 8 year old. You're 8 years old, she snorted. That's old enough to know better. If you don't stop growing soon, it will be too late. Too late for what, Grandma? It's ridiculous, she went on. You're nearly as tall as me already. George took a look at Grandma. She was certainly a very tiny person. Her legs were so short that she had to have a footstool to put her feet on, and her head only came halfway up the back of the armchair. Daddy said it's fine for a man to be tall, George said. Don't listen to your daddy, Grandma said. Listen to me. But how do I stop myself growing? George asked. Eat less chocolate, Grandma said. Does chocolate make you grow? It makes you grow the wrong way, she snapped. Up instead of down. Grandma sipped some tea but never took her eyes from the little boy who stood before her. Never grow up, she said. Always down. Yes, Grandma, and stop eating chocolate. Eat cabbage instead. Oh no, cabbage? Oh no, I don't like cabbage, George said. It's not what you like or what you don't like, Grandma snapped. It's what's good for you that counts. From now on, you must eat cabbage 3 times a day. Mountains of cabbage. And if it's got caterpillars in it, so much the better. Ouch, George said. Caterpillars give you brains, the old woman said. Mummy washes them down the sink, George said. Mummy's as stupid as you are, Grandma said. Cabbage doesn't taste of anything without a few boiled caterpillars in it. Slugs, too. Not slugs, George cried out. I couldn't eat slugs. Whenever I see a live slug on a piece of lettuce, Grandma said, I gobble it up quick before it crawls away. Delicious. She squeezed her lips together tight so that her mouth became a tiny wrinkled hole. Delicious, she said. Worms and slugs and beastly bugs. You don't know what's good for you. You're joking, Grandma. I never joke, she said. Beetles are perhaps the best of all. They grow crunch. Grandma, that's beastly. The old hag grinned, showing those pale brown teeth. Sometimes, if you're lucky, she said, you get a beetle inside the stem of a stick celery. That's what I like. Grandma, how could you? You find all sorts of nice things in sticks of raw celery, the woman went on. Sometimes it's earwigs. I don't want to hear about it, cried George. A big fat earwig is very tasty, Grandma said, licking her lips. But you've got to be very quick, my dear. When you put one of those in your mouth, it has a pair of very sharp nippers on its back ends. And if it grabs your tongue with those, it'll never let go. So you've got to bite the earwig first. Jump, jump, before it bites you. George started edging towards the door. He wanted to get as far away as possible from this filthy old woman. You're trying to get away from me, aren't you? She said, pointing a finger straight at George's face. You're trying to get away from Grandma. Little George stood by the door, staring at the old hag in the chair. She stared back at him. Could it be, George wondered, that she was a witch? He had always thought witches were only in fairy tales, but now he was not so sure. Come closer to me, little boy, she said, beckoning him with a horny finger. Come closer to me, and I will tell you secrets. George didn't move. Grandma didn't move either. I know a great many secrets, she said, and suddenly she smiled. It was a thin, icy smile, the kind a snake might make before it bites you. Come over here to Grandma, and she'll whisper secrets to you. George took a step backwards, edging closer to the door. You mustn't be frightened of your old grandma, she said, smiling that icy smile. George took another step backwards. Some of us, she said, and all at once she was leaning forward in her chair and whispering in a throaty sort of voice George had never heard her use before. Some of us, she said, have magic powers that can twist the creatures of this earth into wondrous shapes. A tingle of energy flashed down the length of George's spine. He began to feel frightened. Some of us, the old woman went on, have fire on our tongues and sparks in our bellies, and wizardry in the tips of our fingers. Some of us know secrets that would make your hair stand straight up on end and your eyes pop out of their sockets. George wanted to run away, but his feet seemed stuck to the floor. We know how to make your nails drop off and teeth go out of your fingers instead. George began to tremble. It was her face that frightened him most of all, the frosty smile, the brilliant, unblinking eyes. We know how to have you wake up in the morning with a long tail coming out from behind you. Grandma, he cried out, stop! We know secrets, my dear, about dark places where dark things live and squirm and slither all over each other. George made a dive for the door. It doesn't matter how far you run, he heard her saying. You won't ever get away. George ran into the kitchen, slamming the door behind him. The Marvellous Plan, aka Chapter 2. And this is where I take a small break. Whew. I quite enjoyed that, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I need to take a break at the chapter, alright? That's my breathing gone. NGP. I'm sorry, I'm horrible at internet. What does NGP mean? I think this is the best art I've ever done from scratch. Alright then, what art have you done? Let me grab my tablet. Well, I take my short break to actually breathe and did someone probably Legends, because he's one on Discord. Oh, so, would you like me to continue for another chapter, or would you like that to be the end for tonight? I mean, it's getting quite late, so I wouldn't be surprised. Go on. Alright then. Alright then. Hang on, we'll wait for Legends to join. Let me just message him. Alrighty then. Minute that view counter goes up, I'll... Alright, he's back. The Marvellous Plan. George sat himself down at... George sat himself down at the table in the kitchen. He was shaking a little. Oh, how he hated Grandma. He really hated that horrid old witchy woman. And all of a sudden, he had a tremendous urge to do something about her. Something whopping, something absolutely terrific. A real shocker, a sort of explosion. He wanted to blow away the witchy smell that hung over her in the next room. He may have been only 8 years old, but he was a brave little boy. He was ready to take this woman on. I'm not going to be frightened by her, he said softly to himself. But he was frightened, and that's why he wanted suddenly to explode her away. Well, not quite away, but he did want to shake the old woman up a little. Very well then, what should it be, this whopping, terrific, exploding shocker for Grandma? He would have liked to put a firework banger under her chair, but he didn't have one. He would have liked to put a long black snake down the back of her dress, but he didn't have a long green snake, sorry. He would have liked to put 6 black rats in the room with her and lock the door, but he didn't have 6 black rats. As George sat there pondering this interesting problem, his eye fell upon the bottle of Grandma's brown medicine standing on the sideboard. Rotten stuff it seemed to be. 4 times a day, a large spoonful of it was shoveled into her mouth, and it didn't do her the slightest bit of good. She was always just as horrid after she'd had it as she'd been before. The whole point of medicine, surely, was to make a person better. If it didn't do that, then it was quite useless. So ho! Thought George suddenly. Aha! I know exactly what I'll do. I shall make her a new medicine, one that is so strong and so fierce and so fantastic that it will either cure her completely or blow off the top of her head. I'll make her a magic medicine, a medicine no doctor in the world has ever made. George looked at the kitchen clock. It said 10:05. There was nearly an hour left before Grandma's next dose was due at 11. Here we go then, cried George, jumping up from the table. A magic medicine it shall be. So give me a bug and a jumping flea. Give me 2 snails and a lizard 3, and a slimy squiggler from the sea, and the poisonous sting of a bumblebee, and the juice from the fruit of a jubjub tree, and the powdered bone of a wombat's knee, and 100 other things as well, each with a rather nasty smell. I'll stir them up, I'll boil them long, a mixture tough, a mixture strong. And then, hey ho, and down it goes. A nice spoonful, hold your nose. Just gulp it down and have no fear. How do you like it, Granny dear? Will she pop? Will she explode? Or will she go flying down the road? Will she poof in a puff of smoke? Start fizzing like a can of Coke? Who knows? Not I, let's wait and see. I'm glad it's neither you nor me. Oh, Grandma, if you only knew what I have got in store for you. George begins to make the medicine. I cannot. George begins to make the medicine. George took an enormous saucepan out of the cupboard and placed it on the kitchen table. George! Came the shrill voice from the next room. What are you doing? Nothing, Grandma, he called out. You needn't think I can't hear you just 'cause you closed the door. You're rattling the saucepans. I'm just tidying the kitchen, Grandma. Then there was silence. George had absolutely no doubts whatsoever about how he was going to make his famous medicine. He wasn't going to fool about wondering whether to put in a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Quite simply, he was going to put in everything he could find. There would be no messing about, no hesitating, no wondering whether a particular thing would knock the old girl sideways or not. The rule would be this: whatever we saw, if it was runny, powdery, or gooey, in it went. Nobody had ever made a medicine like that before. If it didn't actually cure Grandma, then it would anyway cause some exciting results. It would be worth watching. George decided to work his way around the various rooms one at a time and see what they had to offer. He would go first to the bathroom. There were always lots of funny things in the bathroom. So upstairs he went, carrying the enormous 2-handled saucepan before him. In the bathroom, he gazed longingly at the famous and dreaded medicine cupboard, but he didn't go near it. It was the one thing in the entire house he was forbidden to touch. He had made solemn promises to his parents about this, and he wasn't going to break them. There were things in there, they had told him, that could actually kill a person. And although he was out to give Grandma a pretty fiery mouthful, he didn't really want a dead body on his hands. George put the saucepan on the floor and went to work. Number one was a bottle labelled Golden Gloss Hair Shampoo. He emptied it into the pan. That ought to wash out her tummy nice and clean, he said. He took a tube of toothpaste and squeezed out the whole lot of it in one long worm. Maybe that will brighten up those horrid brown teeth of hers, he said. There was an aerosol can of superfoam shaving soap belonging to his father. George loved playing with aerosols. He pressed a button and kept his finger on it until there was nothing left. A wonderful mountain of white foam built up in the giant saucepan. With his fingers, he scooped out the contents of a jar called Vitamin Enriched Face Cream. It went a small bottle. In went a small bottle of scarlet nail varnish. If the toothpaste doesn't clean her teeth, George says, then this will paint them pink as roses. He found another jar of creamy stuff labelled hair remover. Smear it on your legs, it said, and allow to remain for 5 minutes. Boy, I need some of that. George tipped it all into the saucepan. There was a bottle with yellow stuff inside it called Dishworth's famous dandruff coil. In it went. There was something called Brilliant for cleaning false teeth. It was a white powder. In that went too. He found another aerosol can. Nevermore punking deodorant spray guaranteed, it said, to keep away unpleasant body smells for an old day. She could use plenty of that, George said, as he sprayed the entire canful into the saucepan. Liquid paraffin, the next one was called. It was a big bottle. He hadn't the faintest idea what it did to you, but he poured it in anyway. That, he thought, looking around him, was about all from the bathroom. On his mother's dressing table in the bedroom, George found yet another lovely aerosol can. It was called Helga's Hair Set. Hold 12 inches away from the hair and spray lightly. He squirted the whole lot into the saucepan. He did enjoy squirting these aerosols. There was a bottle of perfume called Flowers of Tulips. It smelled of old cheese. In it went. And into went a large round box of powder. It was called Pink Plaster. There was a powder puff on top, and he threw that in as well for luck. He found a couple of lipsticks. He poured the greasy red things out of their little cases and added them to the mixture. The bedroom had nothing more to offer. So George carried the enormous saucepan downstairs again and trotted into the laundry room, where the shelves were full of all kinds of household items. The first one he took down was a large box of Super Right for automatic washing machines. Dirt, it said, will disappear like magic. George didn't know whether Grandma was automatic or not, but she was certainly a dirty old woman. So she'd better have it all, he said, tipping in the whole boxful. Then there was a big tin of Rexwell floor polish. It removes filth and foul messes from your floor and leaves everything shiny bright, it said. George scooped the orange-coloured waxy stuff out from the tin and plonked it into the pan. There was a round cardboard carton labelled flea powder for dogs. Keep well away from the dog's food, it said, because this powder, if eaten, will make the dog explode. Good, said George, pouring it all into the saucepan. He found a box of canary seed. I cannot say canary seed on the shelf. Perhaps it will make the old birds sing, he said, and in it went. Next, George explored the box with shoe cleaning materials, brushes and tins and dusters. Well now he thought, Grandma's medicine is brown, so my medicine must also be brown, or she'll smell a rat. The way to colour it, he decided, would be with brown shoe paint. The large tin he chose was labelled dark tan. Splendid! He scooped it all out with an old spoon and plopped it into the pan. He would stir it up later. On his way back to the kitchen, George saw a bottle of gin standing on the sideboard. Grandma was very fond of gin. She was allowed to have a small nip of it every evening. Now he would give her a treat. He would pour in the whole bottle. He did. Back in the kitchen, George put the huge saucepan on the table and went over to the cupboard that served as a larder. The shelves were bulging with bottles and jars of every sort. He chose the following and emptied them one by one into the saucepan: a tin of curry powder, a tin of mustard powder, a bottle of extra hot chili sauce, a tin of black peppercorns, a bottle of horseradish sauce. There, he said aloud, that should do it. George! Came the screechy voice from the next room. Who are you talking to in there? What are you up to? Nothing, Grandma. Absolutely nothing, he called back. Is it time for my medicine yet? No, Grandma. Not for about half an hour. Well, just see you don't forget it. I won't, Grandma, George answered. I promise I won't. Animal pills. I'm going to take another break here. Someone has left the stream and that deeply upsets me. I like this. Oh, thank you. Who knows, with enough practice, maybe... Go on then, Legends. Maybe I'll stop that weird stutter I have on some words, because... Ooh. Right then, that's my little break over. Now on to animal pills. At this point, George suddenly had an Oh, hey, do you want... Oh yeah, I've read that. At this point, George suddenly had an extra good wheeze. Although the medicine cupboard in the house was forbidden ground, what about the medicines his father kept on the shelf in the shed next to the hen house? The animal medicines. What about those? I don't mind what you do, Legends. You do you. Nobody had ever told him he mustn't touch them. Let's face it, George said to himself. Hairspray and shaving cream and shoe polish are all very well, and they will no doubt cause some splendid explosions inside the old geezer. But what the magic mixture now needs is a touch of the real stuff. Real pills and real tonics to give it a punch and muscle. George picked up the heavy 3/4 full saucepan and carried it out of the back door. He crossed the farmyard and headed straight for the shed alongside the hen house. He knew his father wouldn't be there. He was out haymaking in one of the meadows. George entered the dusty old shed and put the saucepan on the bench. Then he looked up. Then he looked up at the medicine shelf. There were 5 big bottles there. 2 were full of pills, 2 were full of runny stuff, and 1 was full of powder. I'll use them all, George said. Grandma needs them. Boy, does she need them. The first bottle he took down contained an orange-coloured powder. The label said 4 chickens with foul pest. hen-gripe, sore beaks, gammy legs, cockroolitis, egg trouble, broodiness, or loss of feathers. Mix 1 spoonful only with each bucket of feed. Well, George said aloud to himself as he tipped in the whole bottleful, the old bird won't be losing any feathers after she's had a dose of this. The next bottle he took down had about 500 gigantic purple pills in it. For horses with horse throats, it said on the label. The horse-throated horses should suck 1 pill twice a day. Grandma may not have a horse throat, George said, but she's certainly got a sharp tongue. Maybe they'll cure that instead. Into the saucepan went the 500 gigantic purple pills. Then there was a bottle of thick yellowish liquid for cows, bulls, and bullocks, the label said. Will cure cowpox, cow mange, crumpled horns, bad breath in bulls, earache, toothache, headache, hoofhache, tailhache, and sore udders. The grumpy old cow in the living room has every one of those rotten illnesses, George said. She'll need it all. With a slop and a gurgle, the yellow liquid splashed into the now nearly full saucepan. The next bottle contained a brilliant red liquid. Sheep dip, it said on the label, for sheep with sheep rot and for getting rid of ticks and fleas. Mix 1 spoonful in 1 gallon of water and slosh it over the sheep. Caution! Do not make the mixture any stronger, or the wool will fall out and the animal will be naked. By gum, said Joe. Ouch, how I'd love to walk in and slosh it all over Grandma and watch the ticks and fleas go jumping off her. But I can't, I mustn't, she'll have to drink it instead. He poured the bright red medicine into the saucepan. The last bottle on the shelf was full of pale green pills. Pig pills, the label announced. For pigs with pork prickles, tender trotters, bristle blight, and swine sickness, give 1 pill per day in severe cases. Give 1 pill per day in severe cases. 2 pills may be given, but more than that will make the pig rock and roll. Just the stuff, said George, for that miserable old pig there in the house. She'll need a very big dose. He tipped all the green pills, hundreds and hundreds of them, into the saucepan. There was an old stick lying on the bench that had been used for stirring paint. George picked it up and started to stir his marvellous concoction. The mixture was as thick as cream. As he stirred and stirred, many wonderful colours rose up from the depths and blended together. Pinks, blues, greens, yellows, and browns. George went on stirring until it was all mixed. But even so, there were still hundreds of pills lying on the bottom that had unmelted, and there was his mother's splendid powder puff floating on the surface. I shall have to boil it all up, George said. 1 good quick boil on the stove is all it needs, and with that he staggered back to the house with the enormous, heavy saucepan. On the way past. What is this? Oh, thank you. Close me door, please. Sorry about that. Trying to find one. On the way, he passed the garage, so he went in to see if he could find any other interesting things. What kind of pause do you have? Pause. Go with pause. See if he could find any other interesting things. He added the following. Like how many? 4. Half a pint of engine oil to keep Grandma's engine going smoothly. Some antifreeze to keep her radiator from freezing up in the winter. A handful of grease to grease her creaking joints. Then back to the kitchen. The cook-up. In the kitchen, George put the saucepan on the stove and turned up the gas flame underneath it as high as it would go. "George!" came the awful voice from the next room. "It's time for my medicine." "Not yet, Grandma," George called back. "There's still 20 minutes before 11 o'clock. What mischief are you up to in there? I hear noises." George thought it was best not to answer this one. He found a long wooden spoon in the kitchen drawer and began stirring hard. The stuff in the pot got hotter and hotter. Soon the marvellous mixture began to froth and foam. A rich blue smoke, the colour of peacocks, rose from the surface of the liquid, and a fiery, fearsome smell filled the kitchen. It made George choke and splutter. It was a smell unlike any he had smelled before. It was a brutal and bewitching smell, spicy and staggering, fierce and frenzied, full of wizardry and magic. Whenever he got a whiff of it up in it, Whenever he got a whiff of it up his nose, firecrackers would go off in his skull and electric prickles run along the backs of his legs. It was wonderful to stand there stirring this amazing mixture and to watch it smoking blue and bubbling and frothing and foaming as though it were alive. At one point, he could have swore he saw bright sparks flashing in the swirling foam. And suddenly, George found himself dancing around the steaming pot, chanting strange words that came into his head out of nowhere. Fiery broth and witch's brew, foaming froth and witch's blue, fumes, fume and spoondrift spray, fizzle, swizzle, shout away. Watch it sloshing, swashing, sploshing, hear it hissing, squishing, spissing. Grandma better stop to pray. Brown paint. George turned off the heat under the saucepan. He must leave plenty of time for it to cool down. When all the steam and froth had gone away, he peered it into the giant pan to see what colour the medicine was. The medicine now was. It was a deep and brilliant blue. "It needs more brown in it," George said. "It simply must be brown or she'll get suspicious." George ran outside and dashed into his father's tool shed where all the paints were kept. There was a row of cans on the shelf, all colours, black, green, red, pink, white, and brown. He reached for the can of brown. The label simply the label said simply, "Dark brown gloss paint, 1 quart." He took a screwdriver and pried off the lid. The can was 3/4 full. He rushed it back to the kitchen. He poured the whole lot into the saucepan. The saucepan was now full to the brim. Very gently, George stirred the paint into the mixture with the long wooden spoon. Aha! It was all turning brown. A lovely, rich, creamy brown. "Where's that medicine of mine, boy?" came the voice from the living room. "You're forgetting me! You're doing it on purpose! I shall tell your mother!" "I'm not forgetting you, Grandma," George called back. "I'm thinking of you all the time, but there are still 10 minutes to go." "You're a nasty little maggot," the voice screeched back. "You're a lazy and disobedient little worm, and you're growing too fast." George fetched the bottle of Grandma's real medicine from the sideboard. He took out the cork and tipped it all down the sink. He then filled the bottle with his own magic mixture by dipping a small jug into the saucepan and using it as a pourer. He replaced the cork. Had it cooled down enough yet? Not quite. He held the bottle under the cold tap for a couple of minutes. The label came off in the wet, but that doesn't matter. He dried the bottle with a dishcloth. All was now ready. This was it. The great moment has arrived. "Medicine time, Grandma," he called out. "I should hope so too," came the grumpy reply. The silver tablespoon in which the medicine was always given lay ready on the kitchen sideboard. George picked it up. Holding the spoon in one hand and the bottle in the other, he advanced into the living room. Grandma gets the medicine. Grandma sat hunched in her chair by the window. The wicked little eyes followed George closely as he crossed the room towards her. "You're late," she snapped. "I don't think I am, Grandma." "Don't interrupt me in the middle of a sentence," she sighed. "But you'd finish your sentence, Grandma." "There you go again," she cried. "Always interrupting and arguing. You really are a tiresome little boy. What's the time?" "It's exactly 11 o'clock, Grandma." "You're lying as usual. Stop talking so much and give me my medicine. Shake the bottle first, then pour it into the spoon and make sure it's a whole spoonful." "Are you going to gulp it all down in one go?" George asked her. "Or will you sip it?" "What I do is none of your business," the old woman said. "Fill the spoon." As George removed the cork and began very slowly to pour the thick brown stuff into the spoon, he couldn't help thinking back upon all the mad and marvellous things that had gone into making the crazy stuff. The shaving soap, the air remover. Again, I need some of that. The dandruff cure, the automatic washing machine powder, the flea powder for dogs, the shoe polish, the black pepper, the horseradish sauce, and the rest of them. Not to mention the powerful animal pills and powders and liquids, and the brown paint. "Open your mouth wide, Grandma," he said, "and I'll pop it in." The old hag opened her small wrinkled mouth, slowly showing disgusting pale brown teeth. "Here we go," George cried out. "Swallow it down." He pushed the spoon well into her mouth and tipped the mixture down her throat. Then he stepped back and began to watch the results. It was worth watching. Grandma yelled, "Whee!" and her whole body shot up, whoosh, into the air. It was exactly as if someone had pushed an electric wire through the underneath of her chair and switched on the current. Up she went like a jack in the box. And she didn't come down. She stayed there, suspended in midair, about 2 feet up, still in a sitting position, but rigid now, frozen, quivering, the eyes bulging, the hair standing up on end. "Is something wrong, Grandma?" George asked her politely. "Are you all right?" Suspended up there in space, the old girl was beyond speaking. The shock that George's marvellous mixture had given her must have been tremendous. You'd have thought she'd swallowed a red-hot poker the way she'd shot off from that chair. Then down she came up again, with a plop, back into her seat. "Call the fire brigade," she sounded quickly. "My stomach's on fire." "It's just a medicine, Grandma," George said. "It's good, strong stuff." "Fire!" the old woman yelled. "Fire in the basement! Get a bucket! Mend the hoses! Do something quick!" "Called it, Grandma," George said, but he got a bit of a shock when he saw the smoke coming out of her mouth and out of her nostril. Clouds of black smoke were coming out of her nose and blowing around the room. "By golly, you really are on fire," George said. "Of course I'm on fire," she yelled. "I'll be burnt to a crisp. I'll be fried to a frizzle. I'll be boiled like a beetroot." George ran into the kitchen and came back with a jug of water. "Open your mouth, Grandma," he cried. He could hardly see her for the smoke, but he managed to pour half a jugful down her throat. A sizzling sound, the kind you would get if you hold a hot frying pan under a cold tap, came up from deep in Grandma's stomach. The old hag bucked and shied and sheed and snorted. She gasped and gurgled. Spouts of water came shooting out of her, and the smoke cleared away. "The fire's out," George announced proudly. "You'll be all right now, Grandma." "All right?" she yelled. "Who's all right?" There's Jackie jumpers in my tummy. There's scrigglers in my belly. There's bangers in my bottom. She began bouncing up and down in the chair. Quite obviously, she was not very comfortable. "You'll find it's doing you a lot of good, that medicine, Grandma," George said. "Good?" she said. "Doing me good? It's killing me!" Then she began to bulge. She was swelling. She was puffing up all over. Someone was pumping her up. That's how it looked. Was she going to explode? Her face was turning from purple to green. But wait, she had a puncture somewhere. George could hear the hiss of escaping air. She stopped swelling. She was going down. She was slowly getting thinner again, shrinking back and back slowly to her shriveled old self. "How's things, Grandma?" George said. No response. Then a funny thing happened. Grandma's body gave a sudden sharp twist and a sudden sharp jerk, and she flipped herself clear out of the chair and landed neatly on her 2 feet on the carpet. "That's terrific, Grandma!" George cried. "You haven't stood up like that for years. Look at you. You're standing up all on your own and you're not even using a stick." Grandma didn't even hear him. The frozen pop-eyed look was back with her again. She was miles away in another world. Marvelous medicine, George told himself. He found it fascinating to stand there, watching what it was doing to the old hag. What next, he wondered. He soon found out. Suddenly, she began to grow. It was quite slow at first, just a very gradual inching upwards. Up, 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 inch by inch, getting taller and taller, about an inch every second. And in the beginning, George didn't notice it. But when she had passed the 5'6" mark and was slowly going up towards being 6 feet tall, George gave a jump and shouted, "Hey, Grandma, you're growing! You're going up! Hold on, Grandma! Hang on, Grandma! You'd better stop now, or you'll be hitting the ceiling!" But Grandma didn't stop. It was a truly fantastic sight, this ancient, scrawny old woman getting taller and taller, longer and longer, thinner and thinner, as though she were a piece of elastic being pulled upwards by invisible hands. When the top of her head actually touched the ceiling, George thought she was bound to stop, but she didn't. There was a sort of scrunching noise, and bits of plaster and cement started raining down. "Hadn't you better stop now, Grandma?" George said. "Daddy's just had this whole room repainted." But there was no stopping her now. Soon, her head and shoulders had completely disappeared through the ceiling, and she was still going. George dashed upstairs to his own bedroom, and there she was, coming up through the floor like a mushroom. "Whoopee!" She shouted, finding her voice at last. "Hallelujah! Here I come!" "Steady on, Grandma," George said, with a "Hi, Nanny, no, and up we go," she shouted. "Just watch me grow." "This is my room," George said. "Look at the mess you're making." "Terrific medicine," she cried. "Give me some more." "She's dotty as a doughnut," George thought. "Come on, boy, give me some more," she yelled. "Dish it out. I'm slowing down." George was still clutching the medicine bottle in one hand and the spoon in the other. "Oh well," he thought, "why not?" He poured out a second dose and popped it into her mouth. "Oh wee!" She screamed and she went up again. Her feet were still on the floor downstairs in the living room, but her head was moving quickly towards the ceiling of the bedroom. "I'm on my way now, boy," she called down to George. "Just watch me go." "That's the attic above you, Grandma," George called out. "I'd keep out of there. It's full of bugs and buggles." Crash! The old girl's head went through the ceiling as though it were butter. George stood in his bedroom, gazing at the shambles. There was a big hole in the floor and another in the ceiling, and sticking up like a post between the two was the middle part of Grandma. Her legs were in the room below, her head in the attic. "I'm still going," came this old screechy voice from up above. "Give me another dose, my boy, and let's go through the roof." "No, Grandma, no," George called back. "You're busting up the old house." "To heck with the house," she sighed. "I want some fresh air. I haven't been outside for 20 years." "By golly, she is going through the roof," George told himself. He ran downstairs. He rushed out of the back door into the yard. It would be simply awful, he thought, if she bashed up the roof as well. His father would be furious, and he, George, would get the blame. He had made the medicine. He had made the medicine. He had given her too much. "Don't come through the groove. Don't come through the roof, Grandma," he prayed. "Please don't." The brown hen. Whew. And that, my friends, is another break. Gotten through most of the book. We might even be able to finish it. It is quite late. This is fun. Check TTS for. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm glad this is fun because I'm really enjoying myself as well. I'm off to get another drink and I'll be right back. Let's finish the rest of this book now, shall we? The Brown Hen. George stood in the farmyard looking up at the roof. The old farmhouse had a fine roof of pale red tiles and tall chimneys. There was no sign of Grandma. There was only a song thrush sitting on one of the chimney pots, singing a song. The old Wurzels got stuck in the attic, George thought. Thank goodness for that. Suddenly, a tile came clattering down from the roof and fell in the yard. The song thrush took off fast and flew away. Then another tile came down, then half a dozen more, and then, very slowly, like some weird monster rising up from the deep, Grandma's head came through the roof, then her scrawny neck, and then and the top of her shoulders. How am I doing, boy? She shouted. How's that for a bash up? Don't you think you'd better stop now? George called out. I have stopped, she answered. I feel terrific. Didn't I tell you I had magic powers? Didn't I warn you I had wizardry in the tips of my fingers? But you wouldn't listen to me, would you? You wouldn't listen to your old grandma. You didn't do it, Grandma, George shouted back to her. I did it. I made you a new medicine. A new medicine? You? Rubbish! What rubbish? She yelled. I did it. I did, George shouted. You're lying as usual, Grandma yelled. You're always lying. I'm not lying, Grandma. I swear, I'm not. The wrinkled old face high up on the roof stared down suspiciously at George. Are you telling me you actually made a new medicine all by yourself? She shouted. Yes, Grandma, all by myself. I don't believe you, she answered. But I'm not. I'm very comfortable up here. Fetch me a cup of tea. A brown hen was pecking about in the yard close to where George was standing. The hen gave him an idea. Quickly, he uncorked the medicine bowl and poured some of the brown stuff into the hen. Watch this, Grandma, he shouted. He crouched down, holding out the spoon to the hen. Chicken, he said. Chicken, come here, have some of this. Chickens are stupid birds and very greedy. They think everything is food. This one thought the spoon was full of corn. It hopped over, it put its head on one side, and looked at the spoon. Come on, chicken, Good said. Good chicken, chick, chick, chick. The brown hen stretched out its neck towards the spoon, and it went pick. It got a beakful of medicine. The effect was electric. Oh wee! Shrieked the hen, and it shot straight into the air like a rocket. It went as high as the house. Then down it came into the yard. Splosh! And there it sat with its feathers all sticking straight out from its body. There was a look of amazement on its silly face. George stood watching it. Grandma up on the roof was watching it too. The hen got to its feet. It was rather shaky. It was making funny gurgling noises in its throat. Its beak was opening and shutting. It seemed like a pretty sick hen. You've done it in, you stupid boy, Grandma shouted. That hen's going to die. Your father will have you now. He'll give you socks and serve you right. All of a sudden, black smoke started pouring out of the hen's beak. It's on fire, Grandma yelled. The hen's on fire. George ran to the water trough to get a bucket of water. That hen will be roasted and ready for eating any moment, Grandma shouted. George sloshed a bucket of water over the hen. There was a sizzling sound and the smoke went away. Old hen's laid its last egg, Grandma shouted. Hens don't do any laying after they've been on fire. Now the fire was out. The hen seemed better. It stood up properly. It flapped its wings. Then it crouched down low to the ground as though getting ready to jump. It did jump. It jumped high in the air and turned a complete somersault, then landed back on its feet. It's a circus hen, Grandma shouted from the rooftop. It's a flipping acrobat. Now the hen began to grow. George had been waiting for this to happen. It's growing, he yelled. It's growing, Grandma. Look, it's growing. Bigger and bigger, taller and taller. Soon the hen was 4 or 5 times its normal size. Can you see it, Grandma? George shouted. I can see it, boy, the old girl shouted back. I'm watching it. George was hopping about from one foot to the other with excitement, pointing at the enormous hen and shouting, It's had the magic medicine, Grandma, and it's growing just like you did. But there was a difference between the way the hen was growing and the way Grandma grew. When Grandma grew taller and taller, she got thinner and thinner. The hen didn't. It stayed nice and plump all along. Soon it was taller than George, but it didn't stop there. It went right on growing until it was about as big as a horse. Then it stopped. Doesn't it look marvellous, Grandma? George shouted. It's not as tall as me, Grandma sang out. Compared to me, that hen is titchy small. I am the tallest of them all. The pig, the bullocks, the sheep, the pony, and the nanny goat. At that moment, George's mother came back from shopping in the village. She drove her car into the yard and got out. She was carrying a bottle of milk in one hand and a bag of groceries in the other. The first thing she saw was the gigantic brown hen towering over little George. She dropped the bottle of milk. Then Grandma started shouting at her from the rooftop. When she looked up and saw Grandma's head sticking out the tiles, she dropped the bag of groceries. How about that then, eh, Mary? Grandma shouted. I bet you've never seen a hen as big as that. That's George's giant hen, that is. But, but, stammered George's mother. It's George's magic medicine, Grandma shouted. We've both of us had it, the hen and I. But how in the world did you get up on the roof? Cried the mother. I didn't, cackled the old woman. My feet are still standing on the floor in the living room. This was too much for George's mother to understand. She just goggled and gaped. She looked as though she was going to faint. A second later, George's father appeared. His name was Mr. Killy Cranky. I checked it, don't worry. I really like the result, thank you, Legends. Mr. Cranky was a small man with bandy legs and a huge head. He was a kind father to George, but he was not an easy person to live with because even the smallest things got him all worked up and excited. The hen standing in the yard was certainly not a small thing, and when Mr. Cranky saw it, he started jumping about as though something was burning his feet. Great heavens! He cried, waving his arms. What's this? What's happened? Where did he come from? It's a giant hen! Who did it? I did, George said. Look at me! Grandma shouted from the rooftop. Never mind about the hen. What about me? Mr. Cranky looked up and saw Grandma. Shut up, Grandma, he said. It didn't seem to surprise him that the old girl was sticking up through the roof. It was the hen that excited him. He had never seen anything like it. But then who had? It's fantastic, Mr. Cranky shouted, dancing round and round. It's colossal! It's gigantic! It's tremendous! It's a miracle! How did you do it, George? George started telling his father about the magic medicine. While he was doing this, the big brown hen sat down in the middle of the yard and went cluck, 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 cluck. Everyone stared at it. I added shading and want to know which you prefer. Alright then, I'll check it after this bit then. When it stood up again, there was a brown egg lying there. The egg was the size of a football. That egg would make scrambled eggs for 20 people, Mrs. Cranky said. George, Mr. Cranky said, how much of that medicine have you got? Lots, George said. There's a big saucepan full in the kitchen, and this bottle here is nearly full. Come with me, Mr. Cranky yelled, grabbing George by the arm. Bring the medicine. For years and years I've been trying to breed bigger and bigger animals. Bigger bulls for beef, bigger pigs for pork, bigger sheep for mutton. They went to the pigsty first. George gave a spoonful of medicine to the pig. The pig blew smoke from his nose and jumped all over the place. Then it grew and grew. In the end, it looked like this. They went to the herd of fine black bullocks that Mr. Cranky was trying to fatten for the market. George gave each of them the medicine, and this is what happened. Then the sheep. I should probably give you visuals for this section. Right, that's not going to work, I'm sorry. He gave some to his grey pony, Jack Frost. And finally, just for fun, he gave some to Alma, the nanny goat. A crane for Grandma. Grandma, from high up on the rooftop, could see everything that was going on, and she didn't like what she saw. She wanted to be the centre of attention, and nobody was taking the slightest notice of her. George and Mr. Cranky were running around and getting excited about the enormous animals. Mrs. Cranky was washing up in the kitchen, and Grandma was all alone on the rooftop. Hey you! She yelled. George, get me a cup of tea this minute, you idle little beast. Don't listen to the old goat, Mr. Cranky said. She's stuck where she is, and that's a good thing too. But we can't leave her up there, Dad, George said. What if it rains? George, Grandma yelled. Oh, you horrible little boy, you disgusting little worm. Fetch me a cup of tea at once and a slice of currant cake. We'll have to get her out, Dad, George said. She won't give us any peace if we don't. Mrs. Cranky came outside and she agreed with George. She's my own mother, she said. She's a pain in the neck, Mr. Cranky said. I don't care, Mrs. Cranky said. I'm not leaving my own mother sticking up through the roof for the rest of her life. So in the end, Mr. Cranky telephoned the crane company and asked them to send their biggest crane out to the house at once. The crane arrived 1 hour later. It was on wheels and there were 2 men inside it. The crane men climbed up onto the roof and put ropes under Grandma's arms. Then she was lifted right up through the roof. In a way, the medicine had done Grandma good. It had not made her any less grumpy or bad-tempered, but it seemed to have cured all her aches and pains, and she was suddenly as frisky as a ferret. As soon as the crane had lowered her to the ground, she ran over to George's huge pony, Jack Frost, and jumped onto his back. This ancient hag, who was now as tall as a house, then galloped about the farm on a gigantic pony, jumping over trees and sheds and shouting, Out of my way! Clear the decks! Stand back, all you miserable midgets, or I'll trample you to death! And other silly things like that. But because Grandma was now much too tall to get back into the house, she had to sleep that night in the hay barn with the mice and the rats. Mr. Cranky's great idea. The next day, George's father came down to breakfast in a state of greater excitement than ever. I've been awake all night thinking about it, he cried. About what, Dad? George asked him. About your marvellous medicine, of course. We can't stop now, my boy. We must start making more of it at once. More and more and more. The giant saucepan had been completely emptied the day before, because there had been so many sheep and pigs and cows and bullocks to be dosed. But why do we need more, Dad? George asked. We've done all our animals, and we've made Grandma feel as frisky as a ferret, even though she does have to sleep in the barn. My dear boy, cried Mr. Kelly Cranky, we need barrels and barrels of it, tons and tons. Then we will sell it to every farmer in the world so that all of them can have giant animals. We will build a marvellous medicine factory and sell the stuff in bottles at £5 a time. We will become rich and you will become famous. I very much disagree with this, animal rights. But wait a minute, Dad, George said. There's no waiting, cried Mr. Cranky, working himself so much that he put butter in his coffee and milk on his toast. Don't you understand what this tremendous... Don't you understand... Where was that? Don't you understand what this tremendous invention of yours is going to do to the world? Nobody will ever go hungry again. Why won't they? Asked George. Because one giant cow will give Phil 50 buckets of milk a day, cried Mr. Cranky, waving his arms. One giant chicken will make 100 fried chicken dinners, and one giant pig will give you 1,000 pork chops. It's tremendous, my dear boy. It's fantastic. It'll change the world. But wait a minute, Dad, George said again. Don't keep saying wait a minute, shouting Mr. Cranky. There isn't a minute too late. We must get cracking at once. Do calm down, my dear, Mrs. Cranky said from the other end of the table, and stop putting marmalade on your cornflakes. The heck with my cornflakes, cried Mr. Cranky, leaping up from his chair. Come on, George, let's get going. And the first thing we'll do is make one more saucepan as a tester. But, Dad, said George, the trouble is, there won't be any trouble, my boy, cried Mr. Cranky. How can there possibly be any trouble? All you've got to do is put the same stuff into the saucepan as you did yesterday. And while you're doing it, I'll write down each and every item. That's how we'll get the magic recipe. But, Dad, George said, please listen to me. Why don't you listen to him? Mrs. Cranky said. The boy is trying to tell you something. But Mr. Cranky was too excited to listen to anyone except himself. And then he cried, when the new mixture is ready, we'll test it out in an old hen just to make sure we've got it right. And after that, we'll all shout away and build the giant factory. But, Dad, come on then, what is it you want to say? I can't possibly remember all the hundreds of things I put into the saucepan to make the medicine, George said. Of course you can, my dear boy, cried Mr. Cranky. I'll help you. I'll jog your memory. You'll get there in the end. You see if you don't. Now then, what was the very first thing you put in? I went up to the bathroom first, George said. I used a lot of things in the bathroom and on Mummy's dressing table. Come on then, cried Mr. Cranky. Up we go to the bathroom. Once they got there, they found, of course, a whole lot of empty tubes and empty aerosols and empty bottles. That's great, said Mr. Cranky. That tells us exactly what you used. If anything is empty, it means you used it. So right then. So Mr. Cranky started making a list of everything that was emptied in the bathroom. Then they went to Mrs. Cranky's dressing table. A box of powder. A box of powder, said Mr. Cranky, writing it down. Elga's hair set, flowers and turnips perfume. Terrific! This is going to be easy. Where did you go next? To the laundry room, George said. Are you sure you haven't missed anything out up here, Dad? That's up to you, my boy, Mr. Cranky said. Have I? I don't think so. I don't think so, George said. So down they went to the laundry room, and once again Mr. Cranky wrote down the names of all the empty bottles and cans. My goodness me, what a mess! What a mess of stuff you used, he cried. No wonder it did magic things. Is that the lot? No, Dad, it's not. No, Dad, it's not, George said, and he led his father out to the shed where the animal medicines were kept, and showed him the big 5 empty bottles on the shelf. Mr. Cranky wrote down all their names. Anything else? Mr. Cranky asked. Little George scratched his head and thought, but he couldn't remember having put anything else in. Mr. Killy Cranky leapt into his car and drove down to the village and bought new bottles and tubes and cans of everything on his list. He then went to the vet and got a fresh supply of all the animal medicines George had used. Now show me how you did it, George, he said. Come along and show me exactly how you mixed them all together. Marvellous medicine number 2. They were in the kitchen now, and the big saucepan was on the stove. All the things Mr. Cranky had brought were lined up near the sink. Come along, my boy, cried Mr. Killy Cranky. Which one did you put in first? This one, George said. Golden Gloss hair shampoo. He emptied the bottle into the pan. Now the toothpaste, George went on, and the shaving soap, and the face cream, and the nail varnish. Keep at it, my boy, cried Mr. Cranky, dancing round the kitchen. Keep putting them in. Don't stop, don't pause, don't hesitate. It's a pleasure, my dear fellow, to watch you work. One by one, George poured and squeezed the things into the saucepan. With everything so close at hand, the whole job didn't take him more than 10 minutes. When it was all done, The saucepan didn't seem to be quite as full as it had the first time. "Now what did you do?" cried Mr. Killyquank. Cried Mr. Cranky, sorry. "Did you stir it?" "I boiled it," George said, "but not for long, and I stirred it well." So Mr. Cranky lit the gas under the saucepan, and George stirred the mixture with the same long wooden spoon he used before. "It's not brown enough." "Wait a minute. It's not brown enough," George said. "Wait a minute. I know what I've forgotten." "What?" cried Mr. Cranky. "Tell me quick, because if I've forgotten even one tiny thing, then it won't work. At least not in the same way." "A quart of brown gloss paint," George said. "That's what I've forgotten." Mr. Killyquanky shot out of the house and into his car like a rocket. He sped down to the village and brought the paint and rushed back again. He opened the can in the kitchen and handed it to George. George poured the paint into the saucepan. "Aha! That's better," George said. "That's more like the right colour." "It's boiling!" cried Mr. Cranky. "It's boiling and bubbling! George, is it ready yet?" "It's ready," George said. "At least I hope it is." "Right!" shouted Mr. Cranky, hopping about. "Let's test it. Let's give some to a chicken. My heavens alive! Why don't you calm down a bit?" Mrs. Cranky said, coming into the kitchen. "Calm down!" cried Mr. Cranky. "You expect me to calm down, and here we are mixing up the greatest medicine ever discovered in the history of the world. Come along, George. Dip a cupful out of the saucepan and get a spoon, and we'll give some to a chicken just to make absolutely certain we've got the correct mixture." Outside in the yard, there were several chickens that hadn't had any of George's marvelous medicine number one. They were pecking about in the dirt in that silly way chickens do. George crouched down, holding out a spoonful of marvelous medicine number two. "Come on, chicken," he said. "Good chicken, chick, chick, chick." A white chicken with black specks on its feathers looked up at George. It walked over to the spoon and went peck. Whoa, what happened to my message? I don't know. The effect that medicine number two had on the chicken was not quite the same as the effect produced by medicine number one. But it was very interesting. Whoosh! Shrieked the chicken, and it shot 6 feet up in the air and came down again. Then sparks came flying out of its beak, bright yellow sparks of fire, as though someone was sharpening a knife on a grindstone inside its tummy. Then its legs began to grow longer. Its body stayed the same size, but the two thin yellow legs got longer and longer and longer and longer still. "What's happening to it?" cried Mr. Cranky. "Something's wrong," George said. The legs went on growing, and the more they grew, the higher up into the air went the chicken's body. When the legs were about 15 feet long, they stopped growing. The chicken looked perfectly absurd with its long, long legs and its ordinary little body perched high up on top. It was like a chicken on stilts. "Oh, my sainted aunts!" cried Mr. Killyquacky. "We've got it wrong. The chicken's no good to anybody. It's all legs. No one wants chicken legs." "I must have left something out," George said. "I know what you left out. I know you left something out," cried Mr. Cranky. "Think, boy, think. What was it you left out?" "I've got it," said George. "What was it? Quick! Flea powder for dogs," George said. "You mean you put flea powder in the first one?" "Yes, Dad, I did. A whole carton of it." "Then that's the answer." "Wait a minute," said George. "Did we have the brown shoe polish on our list?" "We did not," said Mr. Cranky. "I used that too." "Well, no wonder it went wrong," said Mr. Cranky. He was already running to his car, and soon he was heading down to the village to buy more flea powder and more shoe polish. Marvelous medicine number three. Oh goodness, there's not many pages now. "Here it is!" cried Mr. Killyquanky, rushing into the kitchen. "1 carton of flea powder for dogs, and 1 tin of brown shoe polish." George poured the flea powder into the giant saucepan. Then he scooped the shoe polish out of its tin and added that as well. "Stir it up, George!" shouted Mr. Quillyquanky. "Give it another boil. We've got it this time. I'll bet we've got it." After marvellous medicine number 3 had been boiled and stirred, George took a cupful of it George took a cupful of it out into the yard to try on another chicken. Mr. Cranky ran after him, flapping his arms and hopping with excitement. "Come on, watch this one," he called out to Mrs. Cranky. "Come and watch us turning an ordinary chicken into a lovely great big one that lays eggs as large as footballs." "I hope you do better than last time," said Mrs. Cranky, following them out. "Go on, chicken," said George, holding out a spoonful of magic number 3. Of medicine number 3. "Chicken, chick, 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 have some of this lovely medicine." A magnificent black cockerel with a scarlet comb came stepping over. The cockerel looked eggs as large as footballs, oval or round. These are the real questions. These are the real questions. The cockerel looked at the spoon, and it went back. "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" squawked the cockerel, shooting up into the air and coming down again. "Watch him now!" cried Mr. Cranky. "Watch him grow! Any minute he's going to start getting bigger and bigger!" Mr. Killycranky, Mrs. Cranky, and little George stood in the yard staring at the black cockerel. The cockerel stood quite still. It looked as though it had a headache. "What's happening to its neck?" Mrs. Cranky said. "It's getting longer," George said. I'll say it's getting longer," Mrs. Cranky said. Mr. Cranky, for once, said nothing. Last time it was the legs, Mrs. Cranky said. "Now it's the neck. Who wants a chicken dinner with a long neck? You can't eat a chicken's neck." It was an extraordinary sight. The cockerel's body hadn't grown at all, but the neck was now about 6 feet long. "All right, George," said Mr. Cranky. What else have you forgotten?" "I don't know," George said. "Oh, yes, you do," Mr. Cranky said. "Come along, I think there's probably one vital thing you're missing, and you've got to remember it." "I put in some engine oil from the garage," George said. "Did you have that on your list?" "Eureka!" cried Mr. Cranky. "That's the answer. How much did you put in?" "Half a pint," George said. Mr. Cranky ran to the garage and found another half pint of oil and some antifreeze. George called out to him. "I sloshed in a bit of antifreeze." Marvellous medicine number 4. Back in the kitchen once again, George, with Mr. Cranky watching him anxiously, tipped half a pint of engine oil and some antifreeze into the giant saucepan. "Boil it up again," cried Mr. Cranky. "Boil it and stir it." George boiled it and stirred it. "You'll never get it right," said Mrs. Cranky. Don't forget you don't just have to have the same amount of the same thing, but you've got to have exactly the same amounts of those things. And how can you possibly do? Ah, good night. Let me bookmark this. Good night, buddy. I'll finish the book tomorrow.